Board wheel. That's the thing. Keep evolving.
Hey everybody, welcome to a Transport Evolved live hangout. I'm Nikki Gordon-Bloomfield.
Hi, I'm Kate Elliott.
And we are here today to do a bit of a live stream talking about the current situation in the US right now. We're going to try and avoid as much politics as possible. We're going to try and focus on actionable things that you can do to make yourself feel better at this difficult point in history. Right, Kate?
Mm-hmm. Things you can do to make you feel better, feel safer.
Things that make you go, Sorry.
I think there's a slightly different, but we can try that.
Just as a bit of an apology, we are slightly late starting because literally 5 minutes before we were due to go on air, the power went off. Yes, we have a Ford F-150 Lightning. Apparently we're getting reverb on the audio.
From both.
I don't know if that's me or if that is Kate. Because I'm using headphones.
Headphones also.
Yes,
for housekeeping reasons,
apparently good for you.
Second.
Those who are getting reverb on the audio, are you watching through Patreon? Because I think Patreon does weird things. It's an issue. I had 2 windows out of sync, so it did great. Oh, she, he. Yeah, you're right. My pronoun thing is wrong. I mean, look. This is what happens when your power cut happens. But I mean, I'm happy to, there you go. Fixed it now. Yeah. Thank you for noting and letting me know, Woo Shell. All right, so we had a power cut just before we were due to go online, and as some of you were talking about in this kind of before we even started, you were commenting about maybe that means that Nikki's system isn't working. So just so you're aware, the Ford F-150 Lightning is fine. The home integration system is fine. Right now, there is a bug with the truck, which means that it doesn't automatically wake from deep sleep if a power cut occurs. And my truck was parked on my driveway, on the actual driveway, not next to the chicken coop. And if it's parked on the driveway and there's a power cut, I have to rush outside, move the truck somewhere that it can communicate with the charging station, and then plug the charging station in. I got it running, came upstairs, sat down, and 5 minutes later, the power came back on. So the other thing to bear in mind is that we use 2 different internet connections at our house, one of which we use generally for uploads. The other one is primarily for downloads. So we do, unfortunately, have Starlink. Starlink is the high capacity download that we use. I hate having it. There is not another option that I can get here out in the country. We have a rural ISP that provides a very low speed connection that's just good enough for us to stream video out and is good enough for us to upload, but it's not good for high numbers of video downloads, which of course, as we're doing video production, we have to download a lot of video. I don't want to get too off the rails with that. But before we get
a little bit of housekeeping before we get going,
which
is that I have got 2 kittens. We got them just before Christmas. They are very cute, very fluffy, and also prone to causing chaos. We're still working on things that you're allowed on and things that you are not.
So if Kate just jumps up and disappears, that is why.
Yeah. I have headphones in, so I should still be able to hear. But yeah, if I have to run off, I do apologize. I will be back, maybe with a kitten.
Great. And while we're here for housekeeping, we actually have an order of things, an agenda if you might call it that, of things we're going to talk about today. And we've got some other housekeeping things. I want to remind people, because I've had some issues lately. We're experiencing inordinate amounts of spam coming to Transport Evolved. We are getting emails addressed to people who don't actually work at the company. We are getting emails to team members that are not actually their email addresses, that are coming through our and being caught by our catch-all email address. We're getting lots of fake emails. I'm getting lots of fake emails from members of the team asking us to change payroll, to change bank accounts, and all of that. Luckily, we're a small team. I know that my team would actually physically reach out or say, hey, can you do X, Y, or Z?
Yeah, we just yell at you.
Yes, but there are we are being spammed to the point now that it's very difficult sometimes to discern the difference between real and spam. We're also getting an inordinate amount of people reaching out pretending to be us. Just remember that the only email address that we use officially for the channel is nameofperson@transportevolved.com. If you're going to get an email from me, sometimes I will send an email from a different email address, but I will let you know in advance. That's the level of where we're at with that. But domain, please check the domain. Please check the headers on your email. And we are into the process of looking into getting like PGP verification keys and things like that, just to help people verify. But just be aware that we never send you attachments. Like randomly, we never send you emails asking for money or anything like that. If you are a Patreon supporter, you will get emails through Patreon from us. But again, please check the domain, make sure that everything is done properly. And just as a reminder, this channel is completely free to watch and interact with. We paywall nothing. And it's something that has been both a curse and a blessing for us as a channel. We don't have member-only content for that reason, because I personally believe that everyone should have access to information, especially in this day and age. Kate and I wouldn't be where we are today without public education. We wouldn't be where we are today without being able to go down the library and access books on topics sometimes that many people would find objectionable or problematic. And so it is important that information is made as freely accessible as possible. That's why we are still on YouTube. You can also reach out to us on PeerTube. You can reach out to us on Mastodon as well. And we have our own Mastodon server. So if you see something from us pretending to be us, while Kate and I and some of the other team members have individual private Mastodon accounts where we discuss our personal lives rather than our work lives, we all of us have an official Mastodon account, and the domain, the subdomain is mastodon.transportevolved.com. You can't join it, but you can subscribe to what we say at that point and interact with us on Mastodon. We'll make sure we throw in a link in the description to Mastodon for that. All right. We're holding this live stream right now, aren't we, Kate? In the middle of the day for a good reason.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, well, we're holding it in the middle of the day because it means everyone can watch around the world, at least more or less. But today is a week in which things have been difficult for many.
Yeah, we have seen things in the US become problematic. And like I say, we're trying really hard not to express politics here, and rather than that, just to deal with facts. And in the last week, we have seen an increase in US citizens being detained, arrested, and physically assaulted on the streets of the US. We've seen the murder of a US citizen by a member of ICE in the US, and tensions are high.
That's yes, I think that's a very measured way of putting it. And what we want to do today is not really focus on that part of it, because there are plenty of places and channels who are much, much better placed to do that. Ours is to talk about some things that you can do to help make you, your family feel safer, understand what's going on, and, you know, and protect yourself and your community and prepare for the sorts of incidents that maybe are going on.
And look, I think it's very important to remind everyone that at this point in history, there are many people, both in the US and also around the world, feeling very uncertain. The US president, for reasons best known to the US president, has threatened multiple sovereign nations around the world. That includes countries in Central and Southern America. That includes Greenland. There is talk of NATO potentially having uncertain times ahead. And so we wanted to make this video to talk about good trouble in the EV space, how you as an EV owner can be a good citizen, how you can make good trouble, and how you can make sure that you protect yourself and your loved ones at this difficult time. We should probably talk about what good trouble is, right, Kate?
Well, yeah, I think if I let you talk about what good trouble is, and then I'll do some disclaimers, because there are some specific disclaimers we need to talk about.
Right. So obviously, good trouble was a phrase that many in the US will remember associated with the late Senator John Lewis. The concept of acting in a way that is non-violent, but is also resistive to any attempts to impinge on people's civil liberties, attempts to demonize and or further marginalize communities, and to attack individuals based on certain characteristics. Making good trouble means peacefully protesting. Making good trouble means being an active participant in your community. Making good trouble means in sometimes it can actually mean malicious compliance. You know, if you're told to do something, do exactly what they tell you to do, knowing full well that it's maybe not exactly what is being asked of you. It means being cognizant of your surroundings. It means paying attention, understanding what is normal and what is not in any given situation, and being able to not be fearful, but rather to act with smart forethought, like I say, in a non-violent way.
Yes, yeah, I think that covers it very well. I think if you have any questions about what good trouble is, go ahead and pop them in the chat. We are here to have a chat. But remember that this chat can be seen by anyone on this beautiful planet and is public. And so bear that in mind. And we'll have a bit of a chat about what you should and shouldn't maybe say, and where and when later. But this is a good moment for some disclaimers. We are not lawyers. We are not solicitors. We are not any kind of legal professional. I am a registered nurse, but anything I say today is not with my registered nurse hat on. I have taken off my registered nurse hat. Today, I am just some random YouTuber wearing a nice jumper. That is who I am.
Yep.
And I want to be really clear about that, because we are going to have a little bit of a chat about like some medical stuff. And I'm doing that as a layperson, not as, a reasonably well-educated layperson, but not as, this is definitely not medical advice.
And you should also not kind of act based on what we say here.
No.
What we're saying here is points of things that after this live stream is done, you then go out and go, I would like to know more about these things. I would like to know what certain terms means. I would like to look up some of the technology that we're going to be talking about. So, things like this, and I've got my my Meshtastic node here and a few other things. Knowing what these things are, understanding where they come from, that is all very important. And part of making good trouble is being informed, knowing what's actually going on, and having the skills and the wherewithal to make good judgments, not rash judgments, to know how to act with compassion and empathy, and how to properly respond rather than do the first thing that comes into your mind. And that takes intentionality, and that takes skill, and it takes practice, which are the things that we're going to be talking about today. As a spree says, and there I thought we didn't look up things or educate ourselves anymore in these times. Sarcasm. And this is kind of the point. I'm going to make a sweeping generalization here. Kate, will you forgive me for it?
Well, I'll forgive you, but I might scream. I don't know. I'll mute myself if I do.
So the sweeping generalization, and I know that this doesn't represent the entire community, but I believe it does represent the majority of people who watch this channel. If you watch this channel, you've watched this channel for any length of time, the chances are that you are somebody who got into EVs because you felt it was a responsible thing to do, because the technology was cool, or perhaps you did it for financial benefits. And the chances are that you do tend towards a more liberal outlook in life. That is kind of as close as I'm going to get to touching on politics. Now, while I know that there are people who are politically consider themselves very conservative, very quote unquote traditional in that regard, I also want to acknowledge that if you drive an EV, you have already made at least one step in a direction that might make you more prone to want to do the right thing, as opposed to follow somebody else's leadership or edicts on the matter. And
I think I would. I mean, I'm not going to jump in and say no. I just think it is, and without getting too distracted, it is interesting that EVs were made into, and climate change was made into, a political situation, particularly in the US, because it's less true in some other bits of the world. It's certainly, I think, true in a lot of English speaking bits of the world, and less true in a lot of non-English speaking bits of the world. And it's very interesting that situation has arisen, but there are plenty of people who can look at climate change and EVs from a apolitical point of view and come to the conclusion that it is a good plan.
Right, exactly. And I think that, but again, if you have come from that kind of standpoint, it shows that you have already engaged your prefrontal cortex in some deep analysis, right? Because what a lot of mainstream media and kind of I don't want to say locker room logic, but the general consensus from a lot of people is potentially counter to that, because of where they get their information from, etc., etc. Now, the first thing I want to talk about as engaged members of society, how about that? And I apologize, you've got sun coming through the blinds on my face. I know that is where we're at. And I know, who was speaking in Detroit just claimed to end the war on ICE vehicles. There was another reason why we chose this right now. Like I say, we're not going to try and involve politics in this. But we also have to acknowledge that what's happening right now in the US is the result of a politician who has a particular viewpoint, who is seeking to carry out exceptional overreach of the checks and balances, emboldened and enabled by other people in positions of power who have either chosen to ignore their own position and the reason they were put into political leadership, or have maybe lost their spine and believe that strongly worded letters are the things that will save us. That is, I'm not going to go any further. All right.
Let's move on. So we wanted to talk about things we can do as humans, as people in a community.
Right.
And actually, I think the first biggest thing is being part of your community.
Yes.
Like, if you've met me when I'm not being a YouTube performer, unless I know
that's
you,
a good way of putting it. Sorry, I apologize.
No, that's okay. When I'm not doing that, I am like I am social. I like going and seeing people, but I have a pretty small social battery, and I'm very introverted until I get to know people. Like I will barely speak unless I have to, and unless I'm really pushing myself out there to do something. And it may come as a surprise to people because I, do YouTube videos. I've spoken at events like that's the moderated panels. That being out there doesn't come naturally to me. But one of the things that I've spent a lot of time over the last few years doing is finding ways to be part of my local community. So getting involved with things, not even necessarily things, in fact, specifically not things that are particularly political. I've joined a roller derby team well, I haven't joined the team. I've joined their boot camp. I need to be able to skate better to be on the team. But that's put me in touch with like 30, 40 people that I'd not met. I take part in a book club, and that makes me more part of the community. I hang out in like a local coffee shop sometimes when we don't have new kittens and I can't really leave the house for more than 20 minutes at a time. Get out there and be part of it. And it can be that you want to get involved in like a political group, or you want to get involved in a mutual aid group. And all those things are super important as well. Mm-hmm. But also just being known and part of your community is really a huge thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's when we moved here, I actually went out of my way to make sure I knew everybody who lived in the closest houses to me. So there's a woman who lives not far from me, I think originally from Vietnam. She's from Vietnam. Her husband is American. And she sometimes picks up a mail across the road from me, and I've waved to her and talked to her in the past. And in the summer, I've given her cucumbers and potatoes, and she thought that was wonderful. My neighbors up the other way, I know very little about them, but enough. Like I touch base with them regularly, just so that they know who I am, what I look like. And what is normal for us as a family at our home. I kind of alluded to this just before the holidays. My neighbor had an issue. One of my neighbors had an issue where somebody literally siphoned gas from one of their vehicles on site. And I happened to catch it on one of my security cameras. And I was able to make a DVD for them with the security footage because they don't have computers with USB stuff. So I was able to make a DVD that they could play. Just doing those little community actions enabled people to communicate and to connect in a way that, even if, like Kate and you are very antisocial, I don't like talking to people. I'd much rather be at home. I struggle sometimes with parties. Like I am that stereotypical AUDHD person who goes to the party and plays with the dog.
I mean, I used to DJ. That way you can be at the party, but you don't have to talk to people.
And you have a job which you can plan for, which is one reason I got into performing music. I got into performing music and being on stage and acting because in doing so, I was on stage away from all the scary people that I didn't know. I was with a group of people that I did. I felt much freer to be myself and to be like, and because we were following a script or a piece of music, I generally knew what was going to happen next. And once the adrenaline kicked off, I was able to improvise. So know what's normal around your neighborhood. When you go out, go for a walk if you feel able to. Obviously, don't do this on your own if it's something that you don't feel capable of doing, but pick times of the day when you know it's safe to go out and explore. Know your local shops, know your local community organizations. Know where the bus normally stops, if there's a bus that stops at the end of your road or whatever. Just and I'm not saying go out and kind of introduce yourself to everybody, because that can be a bit creepy. But just quietly observe what is normal and what's not. In my show notes, I wrote practice casual observance. Know your area, know your neighborhood, know what is normal and what is not normal. Now, a lot of these skills can obviously make your neighborhood better, because not only do you spot if there is suddenly a bunch of armed thugs in rented SUVs at the end of your street, but you can also then notice if there's somebody on your neighbor's property that you don't necessarily know. And of course, if you know your neighbor, you can send them a message going, hey, there's somebody on your driveway and I know you're not at home. Is that normal? And if they say no, then they can. And I think also, just to finish, Kate, I also think that we also need to get into the habit of not calling the emergency services as always the first solution. Sometimes you do need to call 911 or 999 as a matter of, this is the first thing I do.
Or
if someone's injured, or 111, someone's injured, there's an accident, the house is on fire, right? Those are obvious things.
Yeah.
Somebody wandering down the street with that you don't recognize, who's just gone into somebody's house, that's not a reason to call law enforcement. I was trying to find a word that wasn't going to be derogatory, but
not any of the phrases that
we
anyway,
regularly talk about.
I'm just going to say, like, so around, I know all my near neighbors, and I know by sight a lot more neighbors, but like my direct neighbors, no. Most of them have a contact number for us, and I know that, you know, when we went away, like, and forgot to tell one of them we were away, we had someone coming over. One of my neighbors messaged me and was like, hey, there's someone in your driveway, is that expected? And that was great, because I could just message back and be like, yes, sorry, we've gone away for the weekend, we've got a friend coming in to deal with the chickens. But also at Christmas, one of our neighbors messaged me to alert me to the presence of unmarked vehicles and drones. So that was nice to know, that I might want to carry my passport card with me when I went out for a walk. Right. Which I'm now doing by default. But like, that kind of relationship with people where, you know, they live near you and they can be like, hey, you just might want to know that this thing is going on. That is very reassuring. it's very reassuring to me as someone who lives here that, like, if something happened that was untoward, someone would likely notice.
Right. And I mean, it can be very it can be very reassuring, but also knowing that your neighbors aren't immediately going to call law enforcement, because law enforcement sometimes, and I don't have a nice way of putting this, F's it up.
Yes.
There is a certain archetype, certainly in the US, not necessarily in every country, but there's certainly an archetype of person who tends to join law enforcement. And they sometimes you'll come across a force that is very well trained. They are aware of things like mental health issues and can deal with things very well. Other times they will not have any training and not be aware, and it can actually be more dangerous. Now, I personally, I think I can talk about this now. I adopted 2 kiddos, and one of my kiddos was prone to having violent, full-blown violent breakdowns in the middle of the street, like physically violent. And a lot of the time I was the victim of that violence. I'm not cross with my child. I'm not angry with them. Those things happened because of things that they were unable to control and emotions that they were unable to deal with. But on one occasion, we ended up needing help from local law enforcement, and we happened to be somewhere where they were trained on mental health, on dealing with people who were traumatized, people who were having an episode, and were able to help calm that person down. On another occasion, the exact opposite happened, and their arrival just escalated things. So I want people to have in their head a way of talking and a way of following through. Is actually what I am about to do the very best thing in this situation? And if your answer should not always be yes, I think it's probably not if, but your answer should not always be yes. Nobody ever makes exactly the right decision. And having that moment to think is very, very important, because most of the time what you're dealing with is not life and death. Sometimes, as was demonstrated last week in the US, that's not always the case, but very often it's what is the smart thing that I should be doing at this moment? What is going on? And as Chuck says, sometimes they F it up to the extent of shooting the person who summoned them. And if you are in a minority, or you look a certain way, or you act a certain way, or you are from a certain group of people, it is something we know painfully too well. And if you are not from that group of people, and you are somebody who, let's use the euphemism of blends in, you need to understand that you're blending in, and your default choices of actions actually may harm other people in the process. So just be aware of that. All right, let's talk about things going up a level and being a good citizen, making good trouble, and being aware and knowing what can go on. Now, again, no generalizations, but many of you do live in big cities. And right now in the US, for example, there are literally thousands of immigration folks streaming through the streets. I'm using that word as a descriptor. I do not necessarily, in fact, I do not condone what's going on right now. I think it is abhorrent. That's my personal opinion, not the opinion of the channel. And I would love them to not be doing it. But someone who is emboldened politically, someone who feels they had the power, and someone who is ignoring strongly worded letters and legal challenges is doing what they want and is trying to remake a country or a region or a world, I think is appropriate in this case, in their own image and look the way they want it to, is not listening to reason or law or whatever. And so at that point, when that breaks down, we're not necessarily into anarchy space, but we're definitely into what is written in law and what is practiced in reality might be different. And so in that situation, we, again, as EV owners, need to be aware. And one of the things that is EV owners that we can do is make sure that our EVs are properly charged, right? To make sure that you don't plan a trip where you take your EV down to the last 3 miles of range. You maybe stop more frequently on that trip to make sure that you do have an emergency buffer. And look, we've had all kinds of news headlines spreading out lately about what might happen. I have family members who've sent me very breathless articles about the end of civilization, or we're going to see this war or this conflict happen, whether it is a civil war or something on a more global scale. That might not necessarily be a, what's the word, Kate?
I mean, I think that is nothing is impossible,
Right.
but I think
Fear-mongering is the word I was looking for.
Yeah, I was gonna go with dooming.
Yes, yeah. But dooming doesn't solve a problem. Being prepared solves a problem, which again is why we're going to this. So the idea of if you use an EV as a daily driver, maybe just make sure you've got more charging it than you might normally have, i.e. don't come home with just 5 miles in the battery. Maybe plan to come home with 10 miles in the battery or 15 miles in the battery.
Drive the way that, we did
10 years ago.
10 years ago. I mean, to an extent you couldn't, because sometimes there weren't the chargers. I think the other thing, though, is when we were talking about route planning, you can use Street View to look at where your chargers are. A lot of the charging apps will show you pictures of the site. And you can make decisions about where a good charger is and where maybe you don't want to stop. I mean, so back when we first came to the US,
are you going to tell the story?
I'm going to talk about driving down to Portland. If I don't know which story you're thinking of.
Driving up to you and stopping for breakfast somewhere.
Oh, so you can tell that story. I used to drive down to Portland, and I had an i3 Rex, and I liked to drive it as much on electric as possible. And so I would stop at a Walmart. And there was a Walmart with a charger that was around the side of the building. I mean, it wasn't in the worst location, but it wasn't a great location. And I remember pretty vividly being eyeballed by people in, and I'm not using this as a pejorative, merely as a descriptor, but lifted trucks with a certain set of stickers on them, who very clearly were not fond of my EV and me. And at that point in time, I made that judgment call that, well, I'm going to do this. But I know that at this point in time, were I to suggest doing the same now, I think my wife would have comments about my ability to choose appropriate things. And I wouldn't. I would make a different risk calculus at this point in time.
Yeah, I think it's worth remembering that at this point in history, certainly in the US, and I'm sorry this is so very US centric, it does apply to other parts of the world, but primarily to the US. Just yesterday, I heard of a report of about 2 dozen armed ICE agents hanging around the back of a local grocery store, just hanging around. Obviously, they were preparing to quote unquote raid and go in and do what they perceived as enforcement. But I should also remind folks that the ICE, the immigration body of the government, has changed a lot of its regulations lately. It's changed the barrier to entry to become an ICE officer. It used to be quite high. Now it's much lower. It has meant that people who would have at one point not met the criteria to become an ICE agent are now being accepted. The training for that organization has dropped precipitously from several months to weeks. And it is clear from the actions of last week in Minnesota with the absolutely horrific and I'm going to call it an execution of Renee Nicole Good, and some people may call that pejorative spin, but that was effectively what it was. I don't want to talk about, we're not going to share the video or anything, but when an ICE agent is holding a phone in one hand and shooting sideways with their gun with the other, there is something not appropriate about that. And I know that particular individual had been with the service for a long time, but there are people joining the service who are not interested in your best interests as a citizen, and therefore making smart choices about where you are and what you're doing is really important. And that comes back to me saying that a lot of charging stations are located around the side of grocery stores or around the side of malls. There's a mall betwixt us, Kate. I can't think of the name of it. It's not Three Rivers. It's the other one.
Three Rivers.
No, it's the one in Tacoma, actually. It's actually a bit, it's in your area.
Okay.
The Tacoma, there's a couple of charging stations in Tacoma that are around the back of malls where people generally don't park. And obviously right now ICE does want to be as covert as possible. There's people might question the veracity of those attempts and the effectiveness, the efficacy of those attempts. But if they are assembling themselves in a particular location, they are going to naturally pick somewhere that's perhaps a little bit more secluded, and that can sometimes be in the vicinity of charging stations. So just when you're planning routes, know where charging stations are, know the charging stations that are well lit and in high traffic areas. You're less likely to have issues than in other areas. That is if you want to be completely avoidant of what's going on. But sometimes you might not be able to do that, and you might find yourself in a position where you do need to be a little bit more unwillingly, perhaps, in the deep situation. And for that, there are some things that you probably should have in your car. And again, this comes back to good trouble. This is nothing negative, but this is just about preparedness. And I think this is something we want to just reinforce here, Kate, preparedness.
Yeah, I think it is. I think that, there are some pieces of equipment that you should have, but I'm going to have a quick 5-minute pause to talk about like first aid stuff that you should maybe carry in your car, if this is a good moment for that.
Yeah, I think that probably is. And again, I just want to remind people, this is not Kate talking with her work hat on. This is Kate talking as a layperson. And it's just the acknowledgement of what online stores may tell you need versus resources that actually you might be able to assemble yourself for less.
So, I mean, I think the first and most obvious thing is that you should have a first aid kit in your car, and you should know how to use it. There are lots of places you can get training to do first aid. We will pop some links in, but quite often local municipalities have links through their fire services, so you can go and get training with your local EMS services. Some cities run their own, a lot of hospitals run their own, a lot of large health organizations run their own. They also run CPR training, and you should know that too. Just basic hands-on CPR We don't teach lay people to check for pulses anymore. Basically, if you start doing CPR on someone who is not dead, they will tell you to stop very, very quickly, especially if you are doing good quality CPR. So, and if they have collapsed and they are not really, they don't really have a decent pulse, then doing CPR on them will not do them any significant amount of harm and might help. In terms of a first aid kit, we'll also drop a link in for this. You want to have just some gloves. They don't have to be sterile gloves. They can just be just some nitrile gloves is probably the nicest ones to have lying around in your car. But even vinyl gloves, the main reason we don't really recommend vinyl as a general rule is because it tears really easily and it can allow certain substances through. But like a pair of gloves, a few pairs of gloves, some sanitizer, hand sanitizer is great. Also, a couple of bottles of unopened drinking water. When you're cleaning a wound, you don't really need anything fancy most of the time. You can just use drinking water. In fact, the evidence is that like saline and stuff like that doesn't actually make a significant difference. It's making sure that the wound is good and clean with a potable water. So just a couple of bottles of bottled water. This is the only time in your life you will hear me suggesting that you go and buy bottled water. The other thing that's really useful to have is a bottle mixed with a small amount of baby shampoo. Particularly if you're going to be in a place where there might be CS gas deployed or pepper spray deployed. Milk doesn't really get everything out like it does improve things. Water generally doesn't do a lot. You're just irrigating. You have to use a hell of a lot of water and irrigating someone's eyes if they've got CS gas or pepper spray on them. You need much more water to actually go through in contact with the surface than you're going to get from a couple of bottles of water. But a small amount of baby shampoo, that will really help. Just mix it, dilute it with water, and have that stored in your vehicle. Bandages, yes, lots of different sizes. Well, not lots, like a few different sizes, something big, something small, something medium. Gauze. If you are putting gauze on a wound, it's a nice idea to make sure the gauze is wet if you like the person, because it sticks. So it's nice if it's wet because it's more likely to come back off without taking skin with it. But you can also get non-adherent dressings, which are just like non-sticky dressings that you can put between the gauze. Because if someone's bleeding a lot, then you want something there. But a non-adherent dressing is a lot of use. Bit of tape. That's not sellotape. That's like actual medical tape. Other things that are really nice to have, instant cold packs, because bruising is a thing, particularly in some of these environments. You may be hit by projectiles. And so cold packs for bruising, cold packs for simple injuries, like people trip and fall all the time, and putting ice on that can help with swelling. Contact lens solution, also good to have. And then if you have personal medications, having some of those around. If you're trained to use it, things like an EpiPen. If you're not trained to use things, you can carry naloxone, which is for drug overdoses for opioids. And in many municipalities, that's free. So you can just get some and store it. And it's just sprayed in the nose. And you can save someone's life with that. So that's
all of this. Sorry, Kate. All of this you can learn at a local community organization, which comes back to know your community, know what the local groups are. A lot of local grassroots organizations will run regular classes teaching people first aid basics. I think the important thing here is you're not a doctor. You're not an expert. You can be a trained civilian. And if you are watching this, there were 45 people a minute ago. If every one of those 45 people signed up, like the one thing you can do today, sign up for a first aid course in your area, even if you have done it before, right, Kate? Because things can change.
Yeah, I mean, the like one of the biggest things that's changed during my career is we used to teach everyone to do pulse checks, and we used to teach everyone to check that people were breathing, and now we don't, because the evidence is that just putting your hands on and doing CPR is safer. And also people get very in their heads about things that they don't do very often. And if you've never done CPR on an actual human and your first step is, oh, I need to check if they're breathing, then you get stuck at, I need to check if they're breathing, and you don't move on to actually doing the CPR, which is the thing that helps.
Right.
So yeah, that's like, things have changed. Things always change. I learn new things every day. And
That's how it should be.
That's how it should be. But yeah, the other thing that is nice, like I said, face masks. I'm gonna just say this. It is a absolutely lousy flu season. Not many people got vaccinated. The vaccine this year is more. It is not a really great match for the flu that's going around. That doesn't mean it doesn't work, but it does mean it more prevents you getting severely ill than not catching it. So wear face masks. I know, I'm very exciting. I always tell you new things. Wear face masks.
Yeah, I mean, especially if you're in like indoors in a closed space. It can also be useful if you are rendering assistance to someone to have a mask on.
Yeah.
Especially if, for example, someone has been tear gassed, mustard gassed, or whatever the gas is. I know mustard gas isn't used, but whatever they have been subjected to, if they are coughing, if they are spluttering, covering your face will help protect you. And in a similar way, having a set of eye protection with you in your vehicle is also useful. Not everybody watching wears glasses.
Really? I
But
thought that was like a
having-
requirement for the channel.
I know, right? But having eye protection is also really useful, especially if you find yourself in a position where one of these quote unquote raids are happening. Being able to protect your eyes from having things sprayed in it, or at least having some form of protection, is kind of useful. It's not going to make you look like Antifa. It's just you being prepared. And I think that's the thing that we have to keep coming back to. This is not about giving you tips and tricks so you can go and cause havoc. This is about giving you tips and tricks so that you can meet situations head on, so you can be situationally aware. And again, re-referencing the shootings that happened last week, with Renee Nicole Good, and also here in Portland, Oregon. I think the thing that's been demonstrated again and again is that when people do not have preparedness, when people are not acting with smart choices, and in this case it's law enforcement, bad things happen.
Yeah.
I have, without kind of going into too much of a rabbit hole, I was talking with someone on the team. I'm not going to name who it was, but I was talking with someone on the team the day of the murder last week, and I said, what I don't get is why that ICE agent was in front of a vehicle, because that's a dangerous position for them to be in, and B, why they didn't put their hand on the vehicle, which is something that police officers are trained to do, so that if the vehicle takes off, there's DNA evidence to tie it to that person. Or C, why they didn't shoot out someone's tires, because from a military perspective, I understand that's how military officers are trained. And they laughed and said, yeah, I've been talking to some military people, and that's exactly what they said. This was a case of an agent who was not properly prepared for a situation, acting in acting in a poor way in official capacities that resulted in someone being killed who shouldn't have been. Official tuning for timing of CPR in the UK was staying alive. Last time I checked, not Nelly the elephant. It depends
The rate
on
actually has gone up. The rate
Yeah.
has gone up for chest compressions. When I learned it was the Archer's theme. I have done CPR to the Archer's theme many times in my life.
So anyway, keep those things with you. Keep that preparedness with you and know how to use it. And while we're here on the subject of first aid kits, I want to reiterate, and I want to say this, not you, Kate. It has been made known to me over the years by various medical professionals, some close and some far away, that when you go online to, Jeff Bezos's favorite emporium or somewhere else and you buy a kit, you don't necessarily buying a kit actually acquire the things that you should have. A lot of those kits are made based on what we can make, what looks good, what do people think they need, versus what do you actually need. So again, sign up to a course, go online, or go to your local community group and find out what medical professionals in your area say should be in a first aid kit, rather than a fancy bag that you bought off Amazon for $10 that has subpar equipment and subpar stuff. Because let's be honest, first aid kits do not have to meet minimum requirements. I don't believe, Kate.
I don't think so. No, you can sell whatever you want and call it a first aid kit. My kit came from a big box store when they had a sale on where you could go in and pick what you wanted, and it was 3 for 2, I think, on all first aid items. So I just went and bought a little first aid bag and stuffed it with random stuff that I was like, yeah, I think this would probably be useful.
Yeah. By all means, buy the bag, but don't necessarily go with what the kit says.
Mine came with a free bag, because if you bought enough items, you got a free bag, and I was like, this is perfect. Mainly because the plastic box I had cracked. So
at this point in the video, I want to thank everybody who's watching and remind you all that we are 100% independent. We exist because of you, and you can support the channel in a number of cool ways. You can sign up for Patreon support from $1.50 a month. You can also send us Ko-fi. You can send us an old-fashioned check if you're in the US. You can add a note. Some of you sent some lovely support over the holidays. Thank you very much for that. You can also support us if you absolutely have to. You can use the Amazon affiliate link. We don't like using Amazon. However, Amazon does have an allocation for all of its purchases, where if you do have to buy from Amazon and you use our affiliate link, we will get a commission, versus if you have to use Amazon and you don't use our affiliate link, that money goes to Jeff Bezos. So where possible, support your local independent outlets and your local independent stores with actual people working behind a counter. But if you have to use Amazon, use our affiliate link. You can also buy... Go on.
Oh, I was just going to say, you don't want to give Bezos more money. He doesn't have to pay any income tax because he lives in Washington, and he helped pay for us not having income tax. So there you go.
Yeah. Additionally, you can also go to our store and buy things like this. This one says "Here to Stay." It's a trans brick wrapped around an EV charging station handle.
You said that backwards.
It's an EV charging. Yes.
Yeah.
I know what I meant. This is
we
my
all
ADHD.
knew what you meant.
This is what my ADHD is. How does that link work? If I have things in my cart already and I have the store and come back through the link, you're getting the money. I believe once you've visited us, as long as you don't put somebody else's affiliate link in, it remembers and it stores a cookie. If you let Amazon store a cookie, you may not. But yeah, that's how it works. I just want to throw in something here that if you want to go and do the first aid training, and I hope that some of you watching are gonna like ping us in the comments and go, I'm signing up for a training program or a refresher. I would really love that. I'd love to see people doing that. I want to throw in something here for people with ADHD. If you are diagnosed as someone with ADHD, I want to remind you that crises are your superpower. A lot of ADHD people, not all, but a lot of ADHD people are very good in a crisis. It's something about how our brains work. It's like a little switch that gets turned on. We may collapse afterwards, mentally and physically, but in the moment, we're generally pretty chill. So if you are somebody with ADHD, this is even better for you to go and do training and learn how to do this, because you will autopilot pretty well. I have friends and family who are not ADHD, and when I am in a crisis, they will be losing their you know what, and I'm going, okay, we need to do this. When I was younger, I regularly used to stop in the side of the in the UK, I used to regularly stop at the side of the road to help people, because I knew that was my quote unquote superpower. Like, take in the situation, know what's happening, and make smart choices. But that only happened because I effectively what if role played with my brain beforehand. And you can do this, if you come across a situation. Can you still hear me?
Lost you for a second.
I'm back. Yeah, I think our connection is still here. So apparently our air conditioning didn't come back online, or our heat pumps didn't come back online after our power cut. So I'll need to fix that later. Talking about other things, preparedness that you should have with you. We talked about medical stuff. We also talked about training. And I also want to remind you that if you are with someone, or you regularly go out as someone with a medical condition, make sure the people that you are with know you have that. I think the team get very frustrated with me, because when I go on a long distance road trip, I actually make sure everybody knows about my defibrillator, where it is. And I tend not to tell people how to do the defibrillator, because my defibrillator is one of those ones, when you open it up, there is a placard inside that tells you what to do. And once you start the process and you press the button, then the device takes over and tells you what you should do.
Yeah, I think you just, when you turn it on, it'll yell at you to do various things. And as long as you do them, then it'll work.
Yes.
And you don't even have to do them well. Just do them.
Yeah. And again, that can be about preparedness.
Oh, I was just going to say, the phrase that you want to search for most likely is bystander CPR.
Yes.
That is the kind of course you're looking for.
Yeah. I hear cats doing things.
Yes, it's probably... He wanted fuzzles earlier. Unfortunately, when Giles wants fuzzles, I have to be on the floor. Yes, hello.
I still think you should have called your other cat Buffy.
No, we thought about calling her Faith. Sasha was going to be Faith, so we were going to have Giles and Faith. But she did not come across like a Faith. Now she's Sasha.
Well, there you go.
No?
All right, so...
just out of reach, of course.
Let's also talk about something you should have in your vehicle. I think at this point, everybody should have it. If you've got a Tesla, congratulations, you've already got it. And that is a dash cam. You should get a dash cam if you can afford one and install it in your vehicle. Dash cams are a really good way to capture things happening without it being obvious that you are capturing things happening. And as a citizen, that can be quite useful. So I have a dash cam in my truck. I don't have a rear dash cam. I only have a front pointing dash cam. Make sure you get a good one. I mean, I'm not going to give you any recommendations at this point, but having a dash cam, if you are driving and something happens involving something that shouldn't happen. I mean, let's open it more broadly. It's just not, about being anti-ice, although at the channel, if you are an EV driver, you are obviously anti-ice. Double entendres, and there are bumper stickers available. Pro EV anti-ice. It's one of our bumper stickers that we sell.
I'm going to add to the dash cam thing and say I would recommend that if you can find one, you get one which records the inside of the vehicle as well as the outside of the vehicle.
Yep.
So that...
especially if you are in a vulnerable community.
Yeah, so that any goings on in your vehicle get recorded. Let's leave it at that.
If you have a comma AI system, It has the ability to record interior and exterior shots. We never used to record interior, but we've started doing it now because it's just that extra bit of security. Right, now let's talk about encounters and things that you can do. Before we get onto that, though, let's talk very briefly about whistles. Do you want to talk on that one, Kate?
No, you can talk about whistles.
All right, so
other than having one and knowing what a long and a short whistle are, that's the extent of my knowledge.
Well, I mean, that's really all I wanted to talk about. So whistles are being used in a lot of cities: Portland, Seattle, in Minnesota, in Minneapolis, in LA. You can get these very small whistles. You can get if you're feeling flush, fancy, you could get one of the official emergency alert whistles that you can buy online or whatever. But honestly, any whistle will do. Why do we use whistles, Kate?
We use them to alert to things that should not be happening.
Yeah, right. Okay. So obviously when you're out and about and you're using when you're out and about and you're using say you're hiking or whatever, a whistle is useful if you get stuck or you get whatever. But in modern day America, unfortunately, and in other countries where authoritarian tendencies are kind of moving on.
So when you're doing your casual observance around places, and you see something going on that maybe shouldn't be going on, or some people that you maybe would prefer weren't there.
Yeah. So 3 short bursts on your whistle means something is nearby, be warned. There's ICE agents nearby, there's law enforcement nearby, they're maybe not doing something that I would like them to be doing. It's traditionally used for CBP and ICE warnings. So if you hear 3 short whistle bursts, just be prepared, be aware, look around you. And it doesn't necessarily also mean that you have to be an activist and involved in a situation. Just knowing that if you hear 3 short bursts on a whistle, you need to stop what you're doing and listen. If you're talking to someone, stop, just listen. Be prepared, look around, make sure you know what's going on. But if and that's called code 1, by the way. 3 short bursts is code 1. Code 2 is 3 long sustained blows on a whistle. You might hear multiple long tones on a whistle. It might be sustained over a longer period of time. It might be long tones and then a pause and then more long tones. Those are ICE are in your area and they're doing something, i.e. they're trying to detain someone, they are chasing someone. And let's be honest, it's normally your neighbor, right? Now, you may or may not agree with what's going on, but knowing those codes could help you stay safe, and it could also help your neighbors stay safe. If you are into 3D printing, you have a 3D printer, you can even print your own whistles. There are plenty of online plans that allow you to print your own whistles. I've got my 3D printer back there behind my CNC machine, and it's really easy to do. The quality is not always great. You might have to play with your settings on your whistle, but if it makes a loud enough noise and you can put it in your pocket and blow on it, really that's all you need to worry about. Now, these are not official. I think that's the other thing I want to reiterate. This is kind of a community learned knowledge, right? And one of the reasons why we're doing this live stream is to make sure that if you don't know those things, you might want to go out and research. What do they mean? What do they, how do they work? How can I make sure that my community stays safe? And again, this is all under the guise of being situationally aware and being able to engage safely and choosing to engage or not engage, right? So just because someone is blowing 3 short whistles in your area doesn't mean like you're gonna, march on up there and tell ICE agents what you think of them. That might not be a smart decision, but it might be a cue for you to put yourself somewhere safe, quietly observe from a distance, or if you are someone who is part of a local community group and you have received peaceful training. And I want to just say at this point, if you are somebody who does want to be more engaged, there are multiple organizations out there, we'll make sure we link to them, where they will teach you to be trained observers. That's not the purpose of this video, though, is it, Kate?
No, we are not here to teach you to be a legal observer. And while I very much want to give a huge amount of thanks to people who are doing that, I'm also painfully aware that the person murdered last week was a legal observer.
Yeah.
And you are making a decision when you do that. And I'm incredibly grateful to everyone who feels able to do that. And I also understand why some people may not.
Yeah, and if you are an immigrant to this country, even if you are a legal immigrant to this country, there are some considerations that need to be done. I am cognizant that how I sound makes me a target. How Kate looks makes her a target. And long before the current administration came into the White House, long before even the possibility of that being a thing, I witnessed firsthand how many officials placed in positions of enforcement do not have the best interests of people of color or people from minorities at heart. I hope that was a subtle way of putting that. All right.
Great.
Does anyone have any questions at this point? You're all very well, you're making comments, which is good. But if anyone has any specific comments or questions to this point, we're going to change tack now and talk more about operational security and stuff like that. I know this is a long live stream, but I think it needs to be done. And I don't think we've got lost down rabbit holes today, Kate. So good on us.
Not hugely. Not by our standards.
No. All right, so Chuck VDL says a couple of things. Groups around here are distributing 3D printed whistle kits to passers-by at street-side protests. Another way to get involved is to make the kits. Yeah, absolutely. And even if you are someone, you don't have maybe any fear that ICE are in your community, in your neighborhood, just having a whistle and knowing how to use it for other reasons, really freaking useful. This is all at the end of the day about resiliency. And I just want to pause here and note that if you live in the United States, which I think most people watching right now do, that's not to exclude those living in other places. Geopolitical instability is a thing for 2026. We've got the US president threatening to invade Greenland, threatening to attack Cuba, threatening Mexico, threatening other nations around the world. If he follows through and he attacks Greenland, that will put NATO in a very difficult position, probably break NATO. And then it could be free for all. Let's not forget, too, that Vladimir Putin is making some pretty overt moves towards parts of Eastern Europe. And so having these skills, having these observable, the skills that you can, be better at observing what's going on and reacting to it more effectively are going to help you regardless of what happens. Additionally, if you live in the Pacific Northwest, if you live in Aotearoa, New Zealand, where there are lots of seismic activities and natural disasters, knowing these kind of core skills and being informed about knowing how to deal with situations can literally save your life. Same if you live somewhere like Florida, which has a lot of big storms passing through. Knowing what to do in the event of a massive hurricane, sudden influx of water, it's all super important. And I think that it's very easy for us in our nice fancy homes with our nice electric cars and our smart whatever to become detached from these kind of skills. And just reminding ourselves that we need them and we need to be cognizant and active in practicing them is a thing that we should all be doing. Communications.
So
where do we start?
I'm just going to start with one of the servers I'm on has a nice sticker which says, "Good girls don't get the Discord subpoenaed."
Right.
So and the point of that is that a lot of the methods of communication that we use are not encrypted. And so anything that you say can be read by anyone who has sufficient ability to access them.
Now, I would point out at this point that a lot of security agencies have seen a bit of a brain drain in the last few years.
Weirdly,
because people of conscience do not necessarily want to go in that space. But yeah, and it boils down to some really sensible things, right, Kate?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of it is just, just don't tell people in public forums that you're doing a thing that you might get in trouble for, whether or not it's legal. Like, there are things that people do that are perfectly legal that you maybe don't want to announce because it's going to make you more of a target.
And you know, it could even be things like if you are somebody who is in a particular space and you're going to an event, don't share with people where you're going to be staying.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously you might want to share with like your trusted person, and we'll come to like having specific important phrases so that people know you are the person that you say you are. But yeah, like recently in the not too distant past, there was a large demonstration in the US where people were encouraged to sign up ahead of time to say that they were going to be at this demonstration. And you will note that the advice from people of color in particular, and also from a lot of queer people, the minority communities, was like,
don't
go, but don't put your name on the big list so they know who was there.
Right.
And that's the basic principle that we're like trying to get at here, is that, you know, I want to see people doing the things that they need to do.
Yeah.
But
I think now is
sensible.
I think now is a good time to bring, as we're talking about protests. Can we talk about the EFF?
We can. Do we want to just talk quickly about like secure versus non-secure communications?
We can in a second, but let's talk about
whichever you want to do first.
The nerds in the audience.
I'm going to pet my cat.
For the nerds in the audience, if you are so inclined and you are technically savvy, you can get one of these, which is a hotspot, right? It's an internet hotspot. It allows you to share your internet connection with other people or other devices. They're not very popular in the US because most people have tethering now, right? But
and most cell phones offer hotspot functionality.
And most phones offer hotspot functionality. If you went to Japan, I think these are still really big in Japan and have been for years. You can actually rent them when you go to Japan. You can rent one so you've got hotspot access while you're in Japan. But thanks to the Electronic Frontier Foundation, that's their logo right there, This is actually something called, well, it's actually an Orbic hotspot that you can flash special firmware on called Ray Hunter. And if you're going to a protest or you're going to be somewhere where there will be added surveillance, or if you're just driving around your neighborhood and you're worried about enforcement actions in your region and you're worried about being caught up with it, get one of these. You can buy them used for what? $10, $15, $30. This one was new online. You can get them for 30, 40, $50, depending on where you get them from. And there are different models, but the Electronic Frontier Foundation has a website. I will link to it in the show notes that gives you instructions on how to install a special software on top of your router. You can still use it as an access point, although this one has a dead SIM in it. But what it does is there's a green line on top. I don't know if you can see that green line. And that green line says the local cell phone towers are all good and everything is hunky-dory. But if that changes to an amber line and it's dashed, it could indicate that in your neighborhood, someone is spoofing cell towers. Now, why would someone spoof cell towers? Well, cell towers have been around for a long time, mobile telephone towers. And what law enforcement can do is they can go to a judge and they can ask a judge to get permission to surveil a neighborhood or an area. If there's a crime that's taking place and they want to capture evidence of a crime, then they can put up a fake, I think they call them ray catchers or something similar. They put up these, basically a sting device that pretends to be a cell tower, and anyone in the area will see that cell tower. Their phones will see that cell tower, and mobile phones are designed to find the strongest signal and to attach to that so that they can give you cell phone service. Now, how these devices work, they've existed for a long time, but they, as cell phone technology has got better, as we have LTE connections, we have 5G connections, as cell phone technology has improved and security on those networks have improved, 5G connections are pretty darn secure. LTE connections are less secure. 3G connections are even less secure. 2G connections are even worse. So these Stingray devices, thank you, Chuck, for reminding me, they pretend to be your cell tower. Now, officially, law enforcement has to go to a judge and ask permission to operate one of these Stingray units. But in the last year, there's been a dramatic increase in the number of them being used, and not so much an increase in people going to court to ask to be used. So the concept is that these are being used and deployed sometimes extrajudicially. Is that the right word? I think so. To effectively, quote unquote, spy on people. And how it works is these devices, they'll go online, they'll pretend to be your cell tower. And when your phone tries to connect to it, it'll go, oh, I'm really sorry, I don't speak 5G. Would you mind speaking 2G or 3G? And at that point, your phone's job is to always find a signal and always be connected. We'll go, sure, I'll use a less secure connection. And so your phone uses a less secure connection. And at that point, they have access to more information about you. It could be anything from your phone's IMEI number, the code that it uses to identify your phone. So they then can go to the cell phone companies and say, we need information about this person's phone records, who they've been talking to, blah, blah, blah. Or actually intercepting your mobile phone traffic, things like your messages or the websites that you visited while you were in that area. And so what these ray catchers do, it's free software. You can download it from the EFF. They have a GitHub. It alerts you in a very subtle way that somebody in your area is spoofing a cell phone. And you can use this near a protest area to see if the cell towers are being monitored. And that can help you become a more informed citizen as to exactly what is safe and what is not safe for you to be doing at any given time. Do you want to add anything, Kate?
No, I mean, I think that's the main thing. I think honestly, if you are going if you are knowingly going to an event where you may not wish one of those devices to capture your signal, I would strongly
Don't
encourage you
take
to
your
not
phone.
take your phone, or at the
Yeah.
very least, turn it off.
And the other thing that I want to be aware of, and I don't know if this is, I'm not going to do this because that would dox someone, and I don't want to dox them.
No.
I have a thing on my home. I have Home Assistant, right? For those of you who know, I'm really into Home Assistant and home automation. I have a Bluetooth dongle that's attached to my Home Assistant, and it communicates with all my ESP Home devices. So ESP Homes are things like they've got little ESP32 chips. This is just a development board, so it's not running anything right now. But ESP Home, you could little things like that, or maybe something even smaller like this little device here that runs code that just regularly checks the Bluetooth. Now, I use it in my home for Bluetooth communication. So I know, for example, where someone is in the house based on their mobile phone. If they've got their mobile phone in the back pocket, or they have their smartwatch on, then the home knows which room you are in. And then it can make smart choices about, for example, I recently wrote an automation that went, if the bathroom light is on, and suddenly the well turns on, the pump to the well, we're going to assume that someone is taking a shower, and therefore we'll turn on the fan in the master bathroom. Those things are based on observations, and so my Bluetooth module makes other observations. Now, when my home just sits there, I'm not right by the road, but I'm close enough to the road. There is someone with a Rivian who lives up my road. And every time my house logs it. And I've looked through the logs on my Home Assistant. When that person has gone past with their Bluetooth key card in their pocket for their Rivian, and the home has logged it. And if I sync that up with my security footage, sure enough, it's exactly when the Rivian goes past. So even if you have smart key cards for your EV, that may also be detectable, or if it's an RFID card, that can still identify you. It's one of the reasons why people talk about having smart wallets, RFID blocking wallets, things that just make sure that you're less identifiable in times and places where you choose not to be identifiable. It's not necessarily because you're doing something you shouldn't. In fact, I hope it is not a situation of you doing something that you shouldn't, because I generally think that people should follow the laws and the rules of the place they live in. But just because you're following the rules doesn't mean you consent to being tracked. And right now, tracking is something that is being ramped up because, as we talked about earlier, there's a general disregard for rules and regulations and law right now in the US, and unfortunately in some other places as well. So turning off your mobile phone, not even taking it, but also having something like a Stingray is a really good thing. And before I hand over to Kate to talk about communication a little bit more, I want to talk to people about things like Facebook and social media and your phone. If you have an iPhone or an Android phone, they normally default to information about where you are when you take a photograph. So when you take a photograph, inside that photograph, there's a little digital tag that remembers where you took that photograph. That is so that when you log into your iPhoto or whatever photo system you have, it's like, oh yeah, you took that photo right here, right?
At this time, not just right here, but at
on this day,
7 and 3,000th of a second on Tuesday the 17th. Yeah, you took this photo at this place at this time. It really specifically pinpoints you to a place and a time.
Yeah. And you have to specifically tell the computer or your phone I want you to strip this information out, or I don't want you to record this information. Now, you can use programs like Photoshop, or if you're feeling open source, the GIMP also does it, I believe. And I think there are probably meta tag
Probably Earth and View
editors.
probably does it because
Yeah.
Earth and View does many things.
You can strip out those tags from your photographs. It will remove the dates and the timestamps. It will remove the geotags. It will remove all of that. And when you are posting those things on social media, might be a good idea to do that. I have to remind myself to do it. I sometimes forget, and I have to go back and delete the photo and then re-edit it and upload it.
And also, like, just be thoughtful about what you're sharing image-wise on social media, because in these days of machine learning, it is incredibly easy for them to scrape social media and identify the people who were at a protest because someone wanted to take a selfie at the protest, and thus has a wonderful picture of everyone who was there.
And in fact, the last protest I went to, there was a drone flying around.
Yeah, I mean, there often is these days for no good reason.
So sometimes the drones are operated by people thinking they're doing the right thing, but very often they're by other folks just wanting to make sure they know exactly who was there and why they were there for later use. And hard drives are very cheap and affordable. I know that we're going through a period of time where memory, RAM, is ridiculously expensive, thank you to AI systems. But storage is comparatively cheap. And when I say comparatively cheap, you know, the last load of hard drives we bought 100 terabytes, I think, for like $3,500.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous. But you could store a lot of information on it, to the point that I had somebody recently decide that they were going to recreate a website that they haven't had for 10 years. And I was like, oh, yeah, that was that time when you asked me to back up your website and I have a...
Yes.
That's how cheap storage is.
Yeah.
So
it's just upsetting to me because I really, really want to upgrade my media server, and now I can't. I can put more storage in it, but it's from 2014. Anyway, onwards.
Onwards.
So
let's talk about secure messaging and assuming that everything is not secure.
Yeah, I mean, basically, like, make good choices. I am quite fond of Signal because it is encrypted. Telegram is encrypted in some ways and not in others, and I'm not sure how much I would trust it anymore.
Yeah, if you are a furry, because furries use Telegram because you can have sticker packs that are really cute.
Yeah.
You can have sticker packs of all of your characters. Just bear that in mind.
Yeah. Yeah. WhatsApp is owned by Facebook, and I leave that with you. As far as you want to trust Facebook, that's as far as you should trust WhatsApp to have properly encrypted communications that no one else can get into.
And also WhatsApp can share your phone number without your consent. I do have a WhatsApp account only because the Spaniards who run a lot of the support for the Vectrex community, they have a big, massive WhatsApp group. And I got on that because I wanted the information. And one day someone from it pinged me because they figured out my phone number because of my default sign up.
Yeah. I mean, I used to have a WhatsApp, but that was when I had Facebook, and I don't have Facebook anymore. Well, actually, no, that's a lie. I have Facebook again. Don't bother reaching out to me on it. It's entirely for my other business.
Yeah, ditto for me. Don't, like, I will not accept random requests. I don't care if we spoke one time at some event. It's very lovely that you want to contact with me and talk to me, but please respect that I don't know you.
Yeah. And so I don't actually have a WhatsApp anymore, but I used to. So my number might still be on there because it's Facebook owned. We, as a company use another secure messaging client and system, which is self-hosted, largely. So
And
just go and do your research and don't rely on the concept that things are encrypted and you can say what you want, because there is different levels of encryption.
I would also remind people that open source solutions can be great. There are lots of great open source secure solutions out there. But just because you've picked one don't assume that it will always be that way, because sometimes things change, right?
Yeah.
The communication system that we use for our TE official kind of work chats is open source. And unfortunately, there have been some changes in the company that is associated with that. I probably wouldn't choose them again. But I'm happy to keep using them right now because they are open source and their code is subject to community review. And if something happens with that community, they spot something that shouldn't be there, they're very quick to notify. They're very quick to work on solutions and fixes. And that helps me feel safe and secure. It also is very picky about encryption. So if you delete your app and then re-enable it, if it doesn't know you, you cannot access your old chats. It's very good at that. So it's all about making sure that you are communicating.
I was just going to say, Chuck VDL, you've made a really good point as well. Like, when you've got a group of people in a chat, it doesn't matter if it's encrypted. If one of them is not practicing good security.
Yeah, I mean, you really don't want to share top secret security information about a military attack in a Signal app.
No, I mean, that would just be grossly incompetent.
Like, no government would ever do that. They have special chats and things for that. They have special apps.
Yeah. I mean, and rightly so. I mean, you wouldn't want to put people at risk like that. So did we want to say anything? Oh, points of contact and having phrases. So I think, did you want to say something before we went into that?
So yeah, I just want to encourage people to think about, and this is more of a kind of a disaster readiness, but it can also be a good way of talking to people outside of things. Let me just have a look and see if my Meshtastic is behaving itself. It's still retrieving nodes right now because I had to reboot it. But Meshtastic, Mesh Core, other things are a great way of. So this is a little kit I bought not so long ago. This is what type of machine is this? I've forgotten. If I reboot it, I'll remember. It's a Meshtastic. It's a Meshtastic node. That's really all you need to worry about. So Meshtastic is a low power, unlicensed radio communication technology. It is low speed. You can't send pictures easily on it. I don't think you can. It's just text-based, but it is encrypted. You can also choose to have unencrypted clear communications on it. I'm giving you a very poor overview of it, but it runs on very cheap chipsets. This one is based off of, if I log into my app, I'll know exactly what system it's based on. Give me a second. This is a Heltec V4. I couldn't remember the first bit. But this is a Heltec V4 chipset. You can get Heltec V3s a little bit cheaper. Heltec V4 supports GPS and also lower power consumption. So this will run for a couple of days. And it connects with your smartphone. So it connects with the smartphone over Bluetooth, like so. And you can use it to communicate to other people using a nodal-based communication system. So this little antenna will send a message. Another person nearby will pick it up. They will forward it on. But if I choose to make that encrypted, the person passing it on just passes the data on. They're not like reading your information. It stays encrypted until it reaches the person that I want to talk to. It's not 100% reliable. It's not 100% like real time. But if you desperately need to get information out to someone, you can. It's equivalent to mid-80s BBS packet radio. Not quite. But if you take ham radio, which obviously you have to be a licensed ham operator, and you go backwards a little bit and then you add technology in, it's kind of in the middle. So I can send a message to my partner using this for free. There's no licensing fees. I just have to have this technology. It's so low power, it can run off a solar panel. And it allows me to get messages out and receive messages. It's also really useful in an emergency. So if there's an earthquake, for example, this would be a lifesaver, because I could message somebody and go that, there's a tree blocking this particular road, I can't get through, or power is out at this location. Where is the nearest emergency center? So I can get information from this using my cell phone. You can buy Meshtastic compatible LoRa nodes that have a little keyboard on them. But this is literally like $20, $30 of equipment. A printed case that I made myself.
It's very neat.
It's an alternative way of communicating with people. And again, if you want to be on Meshtastic, you want to be on the Meshtastic, or maybe you want to be on Core Mesh or Mesh Core, sorry, words are hard. You can choose either one of those. Mesh Core is more popular in Europe than it is in North America, and Meshtastic is used in the Pacific Northwest. Although they do have a Mesh Core up in the Puget Sound region, is pretty big. But it allows you to get messages out and communicate. Sometimes it's just about hearing from other people. So yesterday, somebody sent a message in the clear. They wanted to know about, what did they want to know about? They wanted to know about induction stove recommendations. Completely benign. Okay. And it was sent in the clear. And other people in the area started responding. But on the private channels, I have a private channel with my other half. It's just me and my other half. And we just send each other messages if we need to. Let's talk about communications and phrases and letting people know that things are not okay. Given that, communications can sometimes be surveilled, but you still need to be able to use those surveilled messaging pathways, because it's the only thing you have.
Well, and also, so the bit I was going to dive into first is that we live in a time where there is sufficiently advanced technology that you can make your voice sound like someone else's. And so you can get a phone call that appears to be from your friend, your loved one, your paramour. That and
I am going to become political at this point, to just warn people.
Okay, Nikki's going to be political in a minute, so if you don't want that, then donate. She'll still do it, but we'll have the money, so that'll be good.
All right, yeah. So I want to make sure, because there will be people who watch this who still think that Elon Musk is the savior of all mankind. I want people to know that Elon Musk's AI, Grok AI, in the aftermath of Renee Nicole Good's shooting, willingly created images of her wearing some or no clothing, after she had been killed, as a way, I guess, to mock her. But the fact that Elon Musk funded Grok and allowed Grok, I know he didn't directly allow Grok to do this, but he has not worked to stop Grok very effectively.
That's largely the way
doing
it's designed to function.
And Grok, basically, people were saying, hey, could you do this? And Grok was like, yeah, sure, whatever. which is what Elon Musk wanted it to be able to do. He wanted it to be completely free of the restrictions of other AI models. But the fact that that man has allowed it to happen, and even when that was happening, disparaged the name of Renee Nicole Good, I think is abhorrent. And anyone who says otherwise right now and still thinks that he is a wonderful human being, I'm sorry, history will disagree with you. Additionally, as a survivor of some pretty horrible things that happened to me when I was a kid, the fact that Grok before this was willingly creating CSAM material, I'm not going to say what that is. You can ask an adult. If you don't know what CSAM is, CSAM, I suggest you don't Google it. But was allowing that to be generated on his platform too. And he does have control over that platform, just as he has control over Tesla and everything else. And yes, I know earlier on I said that I use SpaceX and I feel like a terrible hypocrite. And I am working on alternatives.
Can I be political for like
You can.
half a second? I just want to say that it is very telling that the British government decided to try and ban sexual content that they did not like, and yet they allow Grok to still function. That is,
although apparently they have emergency legislation. Someone just said.
Yeah, it took them a while.
The fact it's there is a good thing now. So I just want to fact check you on that one. But anyway, where were we? Security. Let's go back to advice.
So yes. So as I was saying, we are in a time where people can create voice changing things so that they can sound like someone you know. They can send you messages that appear to be like messages you would receive from your partner, from your friend, that suggest that they are in dire straits and that they need assistance or that they need you to do a thing. And so having a phrase that you have set up, or having a couple of phrases that you have set up ahead of time so that you can check that person is who you think they are, is really helpful.
Yeah.
Particularly because in those moments when you are panicking about, oh, expletive, my loved one is doing X and is in trouble, you are not going to make the best decisions necessarily.
Right.
And so not only having those phrases set up, but also practicing how and when you might use them.
Yeah.
Because,
and knowing.
Yeah.
So I have a phrase.
That's my spiel.
I have a phrase that I have. You know my phrase, right? I've told you my phrase.
You have. I would remember it if you said it.
Yes, but obviously I'm not going to say it because.
Oh yes, actually no, I do remember it. It has come back,
and it's very specific. It's a very specific phrase that if you know me, you would know. If I said it, you would know almost immediately that what I am saying at that point in time is not possible. But if you generically knew enough about me, it would sound plausible that I might be saying it. Yep. But the important thing is that it is a phrase that has a first part and a second part. And the first part of the phrase is something innocuous that you might send a loved one, that you're unlikely to ever say, and this is important, that you are unlikely to say in everyday conversation. So it shouldn't be, oh, honey, did you remember to buy the milk? Because you might genuinely say that without remembering, right? But it is something that is specific enough that the people that are important to you in your life, and remember, I start a lot of my shows with, I hope you are safe, you are well, and you are with someone you love who also cares about you. If the people who are near and dear to you know you well, and the phrase will make sense to them, that says, hey, yeah, this is me. This is actually me. and I'm in trouble. You don't necessarily have to specifically say what the trouble is, although I've heard a lot of people suggest that now sending a message that indicates that you might have had a run-in with ICE is an option. And then that second part of the conversation should be, hey, I've hit trouble. The metaphorical has hit the fan. And then the add-on to the back of that phrase can be, but I've got it under control. Obviously, you don't literally say, but I've got it under control. It's the second part of the sentence. So it needs to be either one phrase that works in two parts or two sentences that follow on from one another that sound like casual conversation. But if you only say the first part, your loved one, your confidants know that bad stuff is happening, and then they can put into place an action plan. Now, that is up to you to devise with other people. But it's important that you know it, because it's a way of sending a message, a text message to a loved one that says, hey, shit's got real. Pardon my French. Please excuse me. Kate, take over for a second.
Sure. Yeah, and these kinds of phrases, like, they're useful not just for these situations. They're also useful in the kinds of situations where you have, say, a run-in with ICE or a run-in with unfriendly enforcement person from any facility. But also for, as I mentioned earlier, social engineering attacks. I've had messages come through over time that suggest that, someone is in trouble, that they need help. And I have other ways to contact most of my friends that are encrypted. And so even with friends I don't have a passphrase with, I have other ways of confirming information. And to be honest, none of my friends are going to call me and say, hey, you need to wire this money to this number, because apart from anything else, they know I haven't got any money. So there's no point.
I apologize for that. Thank you for taking up. I just had a row of fun heart stuff. When my heart does, I just had a row of PVCs. Pre-ventricular contractions, is that what they're called?
Premature ventricular contractions.
Yeah, premature ventricular contractions. It basically means my heart's going. And
if you've never seen the ECG dance, it's a really great video.
It's normal for me. It's normal for most. Most people have them first. Most people have them. They happen without you noticing. I notice mine, and it's very distracting. And if I'm in the middle of a thought, my heart going is just like I feel ill for a moment. I don't feel well, and I just have to pause and wait for my heart to catch back up. Chuck said we need an example exchange. Okay, let's do an example exchange. So let me see if I can pick up one. I'm just trying to remember one that I've done. Yes, I can use this one. I think I've used this one before in a video, so I will send a message to Kate and said, oh no, in the middle of practice, my reed broke. Now, that is a plausible thing for me to say, because I used to be a professional oboist, for those who don't know. And if you looked into me, like Googled me online, a lot of my biographies online, say that I am an oboist. And I'm an oboist turned journalist / YouTuber. So that is legitimate, right? And until fairly recently, I used to play with local orchestras. In fact, I might start playing with a local orchestra again. Someone sorry?
No, carry on.
Me sending someone a message saying, I broke my reed in rehearsal is not really something that I'd say I'd probably wait and tell them later. But I mean, if I sent you a message and said, hey, my reed broke in the middle of rehearsal, what would be a good response for that?
Oh no, did you have a spare?
And I went, yeah, it's a spare, but it's not as good as the original. but I think I'll make it through into the end of rehearsal. That is a conversational thing that lets Kate know, hey, she's prompting me for a thing. Now, if I then went, no, I just had to squawk my way through the rest of rehearsal, or I said, no, I don't have any spares, or I said, I'm making one now, which I have been known to do. I don't have my oboe to hand, but oboists very often, they'll tie on a bunch of reeds. They'll watch a movie, and sometimes they'll get friends over and whine oboes reed tying. You'll tie on your reeds. You have to tie them on. And sometimes you'll maybe do a partial scrape, so you'll get it to the point that it croaks. It makes a squeak sound. Sometimes you'll just leave them in what we call blanks, which is the bit of the... So reeds are made by getting a flat piece of cane and folding it over the reed. And then you put the bit in the middle. They call it the staple. Put your staple in, and then you wrap it. If you leave it like that in your case, you can't immediately play on it. But you might be able to get your knife out, because everyone carries their knife with them, and quickly scrape an oboe reed and then play on it. And I've done that multiple times in a rehearsal. So it's something that I would be able to do, and I have been able to do. Now, in that case, in that role play, me saying, yeah, I had to scrape one, is me going, I am dealing with it. I think I'm going to be okay. Me saying I had a spare and it's all good is me going, something scary happened. I have dealt with it, and I'll talk to you later. And I'm safe. That's the other important thing. Me saying, no, I don't have a spare, is me going, holy shit, I'm in trouble. Reach out using this method. Or if you don't hear from me in this amount of time, do this.
Yeah.
How was that? Was that a decent enough role play?
Did that answer your question as to how that might work? That's really the thing. Chuck.
Yeah, I think it was Chuck who asked. I'm starting to question if I want to be associated with humans. Let's just put it like this. I got
cats.
Let's just put it like this. The whole point about this live stream, nearly 2 hours, let's call it 2 hours, is that we want to make sure that people understand ways of communication and ways of keeping themselves safe are important. And the more that you engage in this level of thinking about what would I do if, it's just the same, really, as what would I do if my power went out for 4 weeks? Like, just think about it now, right? The people, big hurricane. I know we have someone who lives in Florida in the chat, and I'm sorry, I'm picking on you. We love you very much. But if their power goes out, right? If they stand in their house and go, oh no, the power has gone out, how should I ever cope? It's not going to help them. But if they go, okay, if the power goes out, I have this EV, or I have this backup battery, and I know how to get my car to power my home, or I know how to use this to here, and I know that there's a place that's on higher land, maybe a couple of miles away. I can go and charge my EV there. They generally have more reliable power for whatever reason. Those things are very important for us in a day-to-day life. But I think in a world where authoritarianism and authoritarian creep are becoming the norm, we have to be willing to have these conversations with ourselves and our loved ones about doing those other things. It is. You're going to love this, Kate.
I know. Someone sent us a dreadful insult in the Vlahurg tongue.
I'm having tremendous difficulty with my lifestyle. But it is the equivalent of always carrying a towel.
Mm-hmm. You should always know where your towel is.
It's about having that preparedness ready, so that if the worst happens, your brain is actively ready. It's the same reason why when you get on an airplane, they always go through the safety briefings. It's not that they think that people haven't flown before, because if you get on a plane and you were to poll everybody on the plane, how many times have you flown? There's probably only going to be 2-3% of people who go, actually, this is the first time I've ever flown, right? Most people have flown before. But then you go, do you remember how to do this? Very different. Very different. But knowing your community, knowing what's normal. Also, we should probably just finish with de-escalatory language and actions. Keeping your hands up, being non-threatening is really important. If you're dealing with someone who is being aggressive, showing them that you're not a threat is very important. Not raising your voice, being calm, and not panicking is very important. I also want to, as a vocal coach, because a vocal coach is a thing that I can do, and I can speak with some authority on that because I did used to be a vocal coach and a voice person. I've done voice acting, and I regularly do panels at conventions. If you're coming to Furlandia, I believe I will be doing one this year at that, talking about how to make yourself heard without shouting. There is a difference between shouting and speaking loudly. It is possible to speak calmly with large amounts of volumes, and it's also possible to shout quietly. If you are in a confrontational situation with someone who has a gun, someone who is angry, someone who is threatening you, it is important that you speak calmly and you choose your words carefully, but also it's possible to speak with volume. I don't think I explained that very well, Kate, but
I think you did. I think that covers it.
I think that covers it.
I mean, that's a skill. It's something that you have to learn. It's not
it's something that you've had to learn in your other job. If you were to shout at people, as opposed to speaking very calmly and being very clear in your instruction, is very different, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. There's no need for shouting most of the time.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, everybody. That has been 2 hours. I have given Kate a 2-hour respite from pulling her hair out.
Yes, that's actually, it's not an undercut. This is just the result of using DaVinci for like my last 2 days.
So Transport Evolved is changing our video production pipeline. Vi and I have used DaVinci now for several years, but we're now trying to force Erin, our animator, and Kate to switch from their preferred programs to DaVinci Resolve. The end result is it will be a faster pipeline, but it has been hell for Kate, and I've been getting messages from her all week. Thank you very much, everyone. Don't forget you can support us from $1.50 a month on Patreon. And if you are still here watching until the very end, I want you to let me know in the down below some of your top tips for smart, good trouble, good engagement that you can do in the EV world right now. To follow on from what we've said, tips maybe that we've not dealt with yet, but things that allow people to feel empowered, safe, and part of a wider community. Super, super important. And I know this is bad timing. My mouse has just died. I know this is bad timing, and it's a little bit different to what we would want to finish with. But Kate and I have a review dropping very soon of a very expensive car. Hopefully, we're going to do less expensive cars this year. But I do want you to see this because Vi, our DP, has been working so hard on this video. So we're going to finish with a lovely teaser video for the Lucid Air review that's coming our way very soon. Thanks for watching, and as always, keep evolving.